All right, welcome back to another edition of Short Track Radio. This time the intro actually worked.
Yes.
Nicely done. We figured it out this time, Cody.
Yes, we hit play, and it worked.
This is the important thing. We're here with our first return guest for Short Track Radio, Brandon Carlson. Brandon, thanks for taking the time to sit down with us at your shop.
Oh, thank you very much for having me again.
Again, round two. So, Cody, let's kind of delve into things a bit. We'll let you ask Brandon how his Chilly Willy weekend went.
Yeah, we followed along a little bit on the internet there and watched your practice, and everything seemed to be going well. And then the race happened, and sounds like you had some issues with the front suspension and down some laps.
Yeah, we raced 3 nights in a row, and the first night we just struggled. Had the car on top of the racetrack and couldn't get the feel of it. And after consulting with another great racer, Jeff Jefferson down there, and my guys, we were able to come up with a game plan and making a couple of adjustments. And we got much better for the race. And we used that first night out of 3 just to tune the car. We ran up to 8th in our race, and then we had a big gap behind us, and I wasn't gaining much on 7th or the leaders, so I thought, we'll just pit. So we ended up pitting a few times, and I think we finished 11th or something, but we'd used it as a test leading into the next night. So we had unload the next night. We qualify a little mid-pack, and they dropped the green flag in the race, and the car was much better. Unfortunately, 2 guys got together in front of me, and I pulled to the high side of the racetrack, and about a minute later, I had the car completely woed up. It seemed like a minute later anyway, I just got assholed from behind and nosed my car 20 feet into the turn 2 wall. So it's got the rear of the car knocked the front bumper off, the fenders. So that was it. We kind of rebuilt her. Saturday night we rebuilt the car, or no, that would have been Friday night. We rebuilt the car, and then so the next race after that was the Chilly Willy 150, and we started mid-pack. I'm not sure how, because we didn't finish our qualifying race, and went from about 18th to up into 9th or 8th position, and we're just kind of riding around. And we got doored on the front straightaway, and it just one of those freak things where I didn't think anything was wrong until the car just dropped onto the racetrack with the frame, and it had busted the left front control arm. I thought it just knocked the bead off the tire, so I pulled into the pits, and the guys look at the car, and they're like, it's not the tire. And I'm like, okay. And then they kind of just like look, and then you can just see like utter dejection, like the lower control arm just hanging on the pavement. But at this point, we still had 2 sticker tires, and it was like 13 laps in, and they always crash like cars every 5 laps there. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll just fix this thing. No. It went green for like a 75-lap run. And we went about 60 laps down, got the car fixed, and went out there and finished the race.
Whose decision was it to spend the time and repair it? Were you just guys like, we'll just get it set and go back out?
No,
or?
It was mine. I got out of the car and went, shit, and then went, Glenn, who never wants to say die, I was like, you want to fix it? So I'm like, yep, let's fix it. So Glenn and Spencer set to rip what was left of the lower control arm out of there. And I went and still got my suit and my helmet on. I'm digging through the front of that big red NPP hauler for a new control arm, but it didn't have a ball joint in it. So while they're tearing the car apart, I'm getting a control arm assembled and built with a ball joint in it. Hand it to Glenn. Glenn grabs it, threads it onto the heim joint, bolts it together. I'm strapping in the car. Spencer and Sarah Mack and Ernie set the toe, and we were back out on the race, 60 laps down.
Setting the toe again after you do something. You forget about that. You just go back out and realize you're out to lunch. So
well, luckily,
good crew guys and girls.
They're wicked. They're the best people to have at the racetrack. And luckily, we were going to go, but the race had actually run to halfway by that point. So I was like, well, we'll put new tires on and fuel it up and set the toe. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, you just got to make up, 70 or so laps.
Yeah, totally attainable, right? No. It was, at that point, it was just like, I just wanted to actually know how good the car was. Because after 2 nights of racing, after thinking I'd gotten the car better, I wanted to know what it had in it. So The tow wasn't perfect, but we were very respectful of everybody who was racing, but we definitely got behind a pack and then just kind of hung out there. We didn't want to mix it up and ruin somebody else's afternoon, but we just wanted to know what that car had in it. And at the end of the race, we were two and a half tenths off what the leaders were doing. So we were pretty happy.
Nice. And so, 2020 continues on with racing season getting closer, and for you guys over at Shockwave, it's getting even closer now that you've added Derek Krause as driver. You guys are sponsoring over there for the Daytona Truck Series race. I understand you're going to be going down there in the next few weeks to watch that.
Yeah, so if most people don't know, I think most people who go to the Speedway do. I work for David Smith in Professional Components and his side business, which is Shockwave Motorsports. And David has teamed up with McAnally Racing, and there's a partner there. I'm slipping my mind at the moment.
Starts with an H.
Yeah, and the Krause family. That's really a relationship between David and the Krause family is what that's about. The Krauses are just the best people. They're just short track racers like you'd find at Western Speedway, only they're from Wisconsin and race on a much higher level than us. So they've teamed up to put a Camping World truck together for 2020 for at least 2 races right now, looking to be Daytona in a matter of weeks, and then hopefully Charlotte halfway through the year. So for me, that's pretty cool because I get to go check one off the bucket list and get to go to the Daytona 500. And not only that, I got my hot pass from NASCAR the other day, so I get to be right down in the action as a part of that group of people. So I'm just super, super fortunate and thankful to David for that opportunity.
Do you ever roll down there helping out, or you're just going to see what happens when you get down there?
No, I think I'm just going to stand aside and watch it all happen. I mean, you never know what the deal is, but for now, I'm just a spectator.
I still forget to pack your uniform and helmet and shoes just in case.
Just in case.
Might need a bigger seat from Derek, but
I couldn't even get a thigh in that kid's seat. Yeah.
Yes, and so obviously you mentioned the Shockwave position. How did that kind of come about?
That kind of all started about March of last year. I think David was looking for somebody to help with his race team. And I kind of fit that bill. We had met through racing the NPP late models down in Tucson, Arizona. And, David just, we talked and he knew who I was. And we just gotten along. And I was just needing a bit of a break from what I was doing. And we were able to come to an agreement that I was going to work on his race cars and really help his Trans Am team. Just the preparation in the shop and not so much fundamentals, but some of more the advanced concepts of making late models go, which, I have a little bit of experience. I don't claim to be an expert by any means, but I have a little bit of experience in late model racing. So I was able to help those guys win a race last year, and luckily that's continued me on through to 2020. So I'm going to be helping those guys again. Not so much at I don't help them so much at Western Speedway, but I'm also a big part of that as I race myself at Western. But also, all the testing we do for Western, and I get in those cars and make sure they're set up. When Derek drove that car at David's, it had the same 4 springs in it that my car, me and my brother's cars use. So we try and make those.
What is that? What's that set up?
Same stuff you got.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, same ones.
Same ones.
Yeah, shocks go up and down. Yeah.
No, so I mean, I have a big hand in making those cars go around the racetrack. You just don't really see it on Saturday nights, but we do a lot of testing out there.
And so what are kind of some of the differences between the Trans Am cars and a late model? Obviously, Howe is building the Trans Am chassis, I believe.
Right. So the big thing between a Howe Trans Am car, they're much closer to a super late model than they are a Western Speedway late model. They're coilovers, big brakes, big hubs, steering rack. The main difference is they're not a straight rail, so they've got a perimeter frame. The frame rail comes out and then goes back in like a passenger car or a NASCAR Cup car. Whereas like these late models here, they all got straight rails off the front clip and backwards. They've got LS-based dry sump engine in them that makes about 550 horsepower, and they've got a G-Force Jericho 4-speed in them, so you can shift them without the clutch. So they're closer to a super late model than they are a Western Speedway type car.
How much do they weigh?
Oh, they've got one of them street stock rules where you can't be less than 2,900 pounds after the race. So they start like 3,100. So they're definitely heavier than a super late model. You know, like this tour car behind us, it raised 2,800 before the race.
Okay.
So they're I haven't gotten a chance to drive one yet, but they're very much like a pro late model or a super late model for sure.
And so, going back to last year behind the wheel of your own car, you managed to bring home your first Western Speedway Late Model Championship. How cool is that, sealing the deal after the last 2 years coming so close to it?
Yeah, I figured out every way to lose that deal, like by barrel rolling or just, you know, not racing as hard as I could and overthinking it. You know, that cost me when I raced against Dave. I was giving up positions in heat races to not wreck my car. This time, it was looking like we were going to rain that deal out, and then we ended up having to race. I had to race Rory, like race our bags off for that deal. Because once again, you can't ever have a nice cushion going into that final race. You got to have like a 3-point lead, and then he out-qualifies you, so now you're tied. But, you know, to race against my best buddy like that, as hard as we had to race each other without spinning each other out, there's about, you know, what makes it really special for me, because I really respect Rory's amount of talent in a race car. You won't find somebody with more natural ability than Rory Smith, I think. You know, like, he gets in anything and it goes fast. Like, you know, he could drive a wagon like around the racetrack at, you know, track record speeds. I think, you know, he's just good. So when I had to beat him and get up on the wheel and do it, that made it a little bit more special. So
Yeah, was it 6 points difference by the end of it?
yeah,
To win by 6 points.
yeah,
so
needed to win a race
positions,
and then
needed to
keep him behind me, and somehow nothing fell off and we were able to do that.
So another component of 2019 was getting to race in the same class with your brother Spencer, and you guys finished 1-2 actually. I believe it one race back in June or July at some point.
Yeah, well, that was his first year. Another guy that's got quite a bit of natural ability, and you know, he won in the street stock division and was super successful there. So we moved up to a late model, which, you know, I thought was the right move. Maybe not for his wallet, but, you know.
You don't have to worry about his wallet.
No, well, I do. He pays the rent.
Pays the rent here. You got to make sure he pays it first.
Scratch that.
But, no, he, you know, we pretty much do identical things on our race cars. So what it was neat was interesting to follow him and find the holes. Not just in him, but find the holes in the setup we use and stuff like that. And I was just super happy. It was a pretty proud moment for both of our stuff to be running 1-2 that night. And then for him to finish second in his first 200, which with, I thought, a car that, you know, probably could have won that race. That was pretty cool,
really
too.
good speed that night.
Yeah.
The car looked easy going in and really fast coming off, which is not easy after 150 to up to 200 laps. So.
No, and that's a testament to him and his abilities, and just the whole group of people we have work on our cars. Randy, Dan Willock, Dad, you know, Daryl Crocker's still just as involved. He's just on a phone, text message away. Just the great group of people we have, Matt Julian, that just help us here at the shop and on race nights. You know, we couldn't do it without him.
Is there much difference in driving style? You're saying that you have similar setups and stuff and knowledge, but how is he driving compared to you and vice versa?
Oh, it's so that's a great question. I got in his car at the end of the year, and it was just like 2/10. I couldn't go nearly as fast as him. His style is a lot more easy into the corner. I'm kind of like come from them too many.
Erratic?
Yeah, erratic, maybe. I'm more of like drive the car in until you see Elvis, smash the brakes and turn the car. Well, I did that in his car, and the car bounced off the racetrack and about spun out and went backwards. That was fairly embarrassing.
Just wanted to point out when Bart had the Elvis car, if you saw Elvis, it was probably Bart's hood.
Yeah, I followed that car.
I've seen that a few times, actually.
That bad boy, that hood's still hanging in Steve Kopp's basement. It's cool. But no, Spencer, he's got a lot more finesse, I guess. I'm just more of a ape behind the wheel. I don't know how to explain it. I'm pretty hard on the brakes, and it's something I really work on myself, especially when I drive the tour cars, is to not over brake and mash the brake pedal.
How are the brakes in the tour car compared to a late model? So recirc systems, the whole deal.
Yeah, recirc system, but the big thing is like 4 piston calipers on the same size rotors, basically.
Yeah, way more braking power.
The car stops.
Yeah.
Like you can it has no sponginess to it. You just especially the way these cars are, because they run on bump stops, the aero comes into much more of an effect that you basically just hit the brake to set the car on the stops and turn the car. And it's like a very quick motion when you race. You use very little brake in a super late model.
Do you have any races planned yet this year for the tour car we have sitting behind us here in the shop?
No, I want to basically go to South Sound Speedway as soon as possible. I have a family vacation planned the last week of March, and as soon as the bank account recovers from that, we're going racing. So we want to race there. I've got some races I definitely want to hit there. I want to run the Northwest Super Late Model Series race there and their local race. I mean, if you have people from Victoria who are race fans, need to go to that racetrack. It's 2 hours off the Coho Ferry, and if you haven't been there, you need to go.
Sorry, where was that?
This is Butch Ben's
South
Sound
Yep.
Speedway.
Nice.
It's like an RV park. It's beautiful for anybody who hasn't been there. They got to go.
It's a very well manicured facility. Not easy to get into for free, as I found out that one time.
They don't care that you're a legendary announcer?
Well, there's a backstory to that.
Okay.
We got time. Go ahead.
Should we?
Absolutely. Unless it's bad about drinking. We already agreed we're not going to talk about drinking. So
not drinking. We were at the Northwest Nationals drag races. I think this was 2 years ago or something. And Crocker convinced us that it'd be a good idea to drive about an hour and a half out of our way to come watch the Miller 200. This was the year that Wade and Dave wrecked on the front straight.
Yep.
So it was a good idea to go come and watch that. So we got down there, and we had left some of their cash in the hotel. So not knowing this was a cash-only facility and being completely lost, we were like, oh, crap, like, what are we going to do? So the manager of grounds, whoever, was like, you know what, you guys came down from Canada, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, here's the tickets. I'll just go ask Butch's wife if it's okay, which was his first mistake. And so here comes this 4'10" lady with like the curler, the typical
boss.
Yep.
She's the boss.
The boss.
And comes up and goes, so you guys think you're getting into my racetrack for free, huh? And we went, well, told her the sob story. And she goes, well, looks like you're going to have to turn around and go home. And so then I was in charge of bartering with her, since I was the famous Western Speedway announcer. My parents were like, you take care of this, Cole. It's all you. And so I pulled out the orange tickets, and I was like, well, we already got tickets, so what does it matter? And she goes, where did you get those from? And I was like, your ticket lady. And she went in, and as we were walking into the track, I could just hear her screaming at this ticket lady, just parading her, going off. So that's my South Sound Speedway story. Still haven't been back.
So bring your money next time.
Bring your money.
That's why
Bring
Western
cash.
Speedway is
Bring
so
cash.
great, because they have a debit machine there now. You can pay at the door. There's cash machine.
There you go.
Excellent. Speaking of different tracks, one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the different tracks, different sizes. Sometimes you're running the car behind us. Sometimes you're running the 81. You got the late model. When you show up at a track, what is your go-to for setup? Are you walking the track? If you've been there before, are you just talking to different guys? Like, what kind of things are you doing to get yourself ready for the first practice session?
Funny enough, I just kind of like YouTube it. Me and my boy Ryder love watching racing, so we'll just put YouTube of whatever track, whatever we're watching on the TV, and we usually try and find somebody's GoPro footage. It's usually a lot of that around on the internet. So that's what I'll do, and just try and see the line. But, you know, the older I get, the more I just try and figure it out myself, and maybe that's not the best way to go about it, but that's what I do. So I've got a very distinct way I like to run a racetrack, which is like how you drive Western Speedway, high in, low out, and, you know, float the car in and back to the gas early. And that's just kind of how I approach most racetracks. It doesn't work everywhere. You know, Tucson, that's a place where the fast way is about like 6 inches off the wall on the front and back straightaways, and about a foot off the wall in the corners.
They got progressive banking.
Progressive banking.
5, 7, 12 or something there.
So you rip the fence basically, and it's about the scariest thing you can do in a late model. Because when it goes bad, like what happened, you know, just came to a nice stop, but there's nowhere to go. Like if something goes wrong, you're just going to smack the wall. Like it's how it happens. And a place like Tucson, because the radius, again, you forget how fast you're going. Like you only notice you're going fast when something stops. Like it's like, and it stops fast. Like there's some footage from the turkey shoot we were at where like they jumped 4 cars in one corner, and all of them needed clips. Like it was like a Talladega wreck, I call it. Like, but no, I think I try and approach each racetrack the same way. The track I went to for the first time and found good speed there was Yakima. It's a lot like Western. It's long, straight straightaways, and you know, kind of gradual sweeping corners, not a lot of bank. Everywhere has more bank than Western Speedway, but there's not a lot there. So you definitely, that diamond line really, really worked there. But no, I just try and do a little bit of research and then set the car up and away we go.
And so we took a bit of a hiatus here on the podcast, but fortunately for us, you guys over at Shockwave have been picking up the social media aspect of racing on Vancouver Island. Tell us a little bit about how the Shockwave Facebook videos have started, kind of recapping weekends and PRI show and everything in between.
Well, how that came about was David and I were in Sonoma for the Cup race, and we were both guests of Team Penske. What had happened was Penske had rented the Shockwave cars to test at Sonoma, so we got to work with Ryan Blaney and Logano and Brad and Paul Menard, and so they were gracious enough to invite us to Sonoma, and so we were just like in awe with what was going on. Like we've both been to NASCAR races, but not been there, and I was able to see some family friends, Brent Patzak, and hang out with him on Ryan Priest's crew and talk to those guys, and we just wanted to talk about it and tell people what we were doing. And like anybody who's doing this, you know, David's got a business and he's got a brand he's trying to promote, and that's one outlet. You know, a lot of people who have race cars or interested in race cars are also interested in the outdoors and boating, so they kind of go hand in hand, we find, and we like to talk about racing and promote Shockwave at the same time. So, you know, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We like to just talk about our racing, other people's racing. We're just like two guys BSing about racing. That's really what it boils down to. No different than this.
Yeah, it's definitely been some fun ones in the past, and I think David likes catching you off guard sometimes.
He's a professional at it. He's a professional at catching me off guard.
I think the best moment was when we had the happy birthday for Derek at the 200 there. He managed to croon everybody. That
was fantastic. I thought that kid was going to cry.
I missed that. What was
he was redder than my race car. Smith started singing "Happy Birthday."
Which Smith?
David.
Oh, David. Okay.
Smith.
Yeah. He wanted to sing "Happy Birthday," and the deal was that, well, if somebody's saying "Happy Birthday," it's not going to be the crowd; it's going to be you. So right after the national anthem.
Awesome. That sounds great.
And you got to understand, Derek is like the shyest kid you've ever met. Like he puts himself out there because that's his job now, but he is a shy individual, and that was pretty funny.
Most definitely, as we're getting distracted here because they have an ARCA race replay on Fox Sports Racing in the background. That's a good feature of this shop, is that it does have a TV hooked up to it.
Yes.
We'll do a.
Who did that? Because I don't. You actually did it. Wow,
Yeah.
nice. And mounted it on the wall.
Yeah.
We'll do we're an audio shop tour here since the camera equipment wasn't quite up to snuff today.
I failed.
We don't have Tommy. We don't have
Tommy took a day off
Tommy's
work, and now the camera doesn't work, and there's no battery in my cell phone, and so Tommy's gonna be back for next one. We'll have some video footage for you.
There we go. So what has been kind of your favorite racing moment in these past few years that, since it's been that you've been on the podcast?
What have I done? I don't. I'm lucky enough I get to race so much. I just.
Is this maybe the amount that you race? Is that?
Yeah, the amount I race. Winning the Keg Series championship was like, I didn't need to do that for anybody but myself. I just wanted. One thing left to do is win the 200. That's tough enough to do in its own, but that keg deal, I'd figured out every way to lose that, so I just needed to win that for Brandon. Helping those Shockwave guys win their very first Trans Am race, that was pretty cool. That was the first race I was involved in and had a big hand in how that went down. And we came out, truthfully, though, we were running 1, 2, 3 in that race until one of the cars lost a spindle late in the going. Nothing we could have done. The spindle failed and the car broke. But we finished 1, 2 in that race and had third sewed up.
And that was with Chris Cook and Derek in the car there?
Derek won, Chris Cook ran second, and a young man who's going West Racing, ARCA West Racing this year, Lawless Allen, was in the car, in the third car. And we had this is a good story. Basically, Derek had blown up an engine in final practice in like the mock qualifying session, and David, being as gracious as he is, got out of his own car and gave it to Derek. So in the matter of about, it seemed like 5 seconds, but it was probably 15 minutes, we had to reweigh a car, get it, the seat fitted in it, the steering adjusted, and just a testament to how good Derek is. He pretty much out-qualified the field by a second in a car he'd never driven. Why I'm pretty proud of that was the car. Like I had physically set up. Like I had David was driving it, and I was his crew chief, and I had turned every bolt on that thing. And David, unfortunately, never got to show what that car had in it. But Derek went out and pretty much put the boots to those guys in qualifying. That was pretty cool to watch, and then handedly won the race. He even beat the Trans Am 1 cars. So those are the cars with like cup engines in them. Big sprint car tires on the back. He passed them all. It was pretty neat to watch.
So you mentioned there you're turning the wrenches on that. For your cars, are you doing the motor, suspension, gearing? I know you worked in transmission shops, have that skill and that ability. Who's doing what on each aspect? So
we right now have a great program going. We have a man who's been around Western Speedway for a long time. Dan Willock is his name, and Dan right now is kind of got his fingers in the pie of my cars, Daryl Midgley's cars, and my brother's car. And we're all through Dan. We're hooked up with a great crew chief in the Northwest by the name of Chuck Carruthers. Chuck's cars have won all the big races on the West Coast. Basically, they've won the Chilly Willy, the Summer Showdown. And luckily, Chuck works with us, even though we're not a big customer. We're not buying cars off of him. He's just a great person. And no matter how much you spend, whether you spend $5 with him, it seems, or $500,000, he's there to make sure you're having a good time racing and you're getting the latest and greatest information to make your car go around the racetrack. So our shocks are all kind of helped out by Chuck Carruthers. Dan Willock's setting most of the cars up, and we're working with Chuck, especially on the super late models of the setups of the cars. And then, Western Speedway wise, Dan's also very heavily involved with my car and my brother's car. He's more focused on my brother because Spencer needs the help and then more of that one-on-one. My car on Saturday nights is really me and longtime crew guy Randy, and I kind of call my own shots on the cars. And as for the rear ends and driveline, I pretty much build all that for all our cars. For the first time ever, we bought a motor for the super late model, and it couldn't have been a better decision. This has got a Gord Morris Nutter motor in the car, and it is badass. We took that thing to Yakima, and it ran with the Freight Train Peters. It ran with everybody else's stuff, the Hamner motors. It was just as good as everybody else's
what
stuff.
he had in his stock car, right?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
That's what
that was Gord's personal
Gord's
engine, personal motor. Yeah,
from the stock car days.
We beat on that thing, turned it up over 8,000, and it's just a great piece. So this is the first time we haven't done our own motor in a car. We still pretty much do everything in-house. Still have a lot of help from Ted Zerbin and Alien Race Cars. All our stuff. All my cars are Aliens, and Spencer's car is a Greg Cork car. We still pretty much do absolutely everything in-house. That's the only way you can really afford it.
And I think I see on Cody's phone that he's got a picture of a certain race car pulled up here, and I think there's an interesting story with some of the paint work on this particular car. Cody?
Yeah, I think we got... So this is from 2007, apparently, and it's a beautiful
that
red
thing's
car.
Fantastic.
Number 4, Howie's car corralled on the side, looks beautiful, freshly painted right there. And
you know what else was freshly painted in that deal was my parents' brand new garage and the front of their garage. So Cody and I, Wayne Dakin.
Yeah.
Wayne Dakin somehow, I don't know how, in his line of work, found me like 4 gallons of industrial red paint. And I thought I'd paint my stock car after rebodying it. I didn't know anything about paint, but my buddy Carl did. So we painted the car in Dad's new garage. And we painted the car, the garage floor, the garage door, windows. Needless to say, the car looked good, and Dad's garage not so much anymore.
Yeah, a little trip to the store, get some solvent to try to clean that floor up.
We build engines in there still for stock cars and fix up the super late model stuff. There's still red spray or red overspray in there to this day. Those are good times.
Definitely claim the territory, and while we're still talking about this, I think Cody has some more pretty good stories that we didn't get to hear last time when...
Cody's known me for far too long. That's
exactly.
the problem.
Yeah, we made a slight agreement that we weren't going to get into too many drinking stories because we don't drink, and therefore we don't have any stories. But, I think talking to little Daryl, he's mentioning how you guys grew up together, pretty much were playing together as kids, and then... as your families grow together, both you keep racing together. Maybe talk a little bit about that relationship. He was mentioning how awesome it is to grow up and then race with you, being the track promoter at Western Speedway, helping go on the trips down south with you guys. Pretty special to him. So how are you with that and with your families growing up and racing together?
So that all starts out with our dads and Daryl Midgley, Ted Zerbin. They all started racing in the early 80s, and I don't know what year it was, but those guys are probably, I was saying earlier, they're probably the longest running crew of core people at Western Speedway. I'd put them up against anybody, like racing since the early 80s into, almost 2020 here. We are 2020 now.
I think we're 2020 now, yes.
Yeah. So little Daryl and I started out in a playpen together at Glenn's house on Darwin, where they kept Daryl Midgley's cars before Alien Race Cars really even existed. Or maybe Alien Race Cars existed there, but it was at Glenn's house. And then Daryl and I, we would always meet at, Ted's and work on the car together. And he's so smart. I was always a nut and bolt guy, and Daryl was always working on the setups with Ted. And, he was a master fabricator. Never formally trained, just Zerbin trained, which is better than any formal training. And so, but we kind of, not grew apart isn't the right word, but, I was playing hockey when I was a kid, and he was playing basketball, and he went to university, and I worked in the trans shop. And then, once school ends, you gravitate back towards people that have those interests, right? And we kind of found each other again at Western Speedway when I was racing my street stock, and Daryl, he was coming back racing with the Scotty Roadster guys, and we kind of found each other And of course, the common bond of Daryl's car still, when Daryl was racing all the time before he got the racetrack, and then we kind of been inseparable ever since. Since about the mid 2000s, he's any late model street stock I really had any form of success in. He's been behind the scenes in it. I just can't race without him. Really, I need something. I welded, or he's how I afford to race, because if I wreck something, he's the guy that still to this day has to come fix it for me. And our families are tied together. My wife and his wife are cousins. It's just a big family deal, which you'll think I'm way more hillbilly than I am if I try to explain it.
The cousins
but it's really just now it's just become this big family that we get to go racing together. So that's I'm actually really lucky. And my boy, DJ's teaching Ryder how to play Lego, and you can start to see the cycle repeat itself. It's pretty neat.
Nice. And he maybe helped you out in California with ID or something?
There might have been
a hotel and maybe an ID or something.
If you've ever tried to have a beer with Glenn Crocker, you'll lose. Glenn likes to drink whiskey, and this one time there's this bar down the road from the hotel in Redding, California. And Redding was one of those trips Victoria people, racers, fans, they all used to travel 12 hours down the road and stay in this one hotel, and it was like Woodstock in California, right? So I think, there was Glenn, and I think Kurt Ron Payne would have been there, and the Bowers boys, and Daryl, he was more serious than saying, I'm not going out drinking, that ain't gonna work. So I borrowed his ID, and the bouncer, Daryl and I don't look anything alike, other than
both male. That's
both
about
male.
both
but he's
male.
just the bouncer was I don't much feel like converting libs to kilograms. That's his words. And he just handed me back the ID, and I went there and drank beer with Glenn. It didn't go well.
Didn't go well. But you had fun. That's the main thing.
I learned a lot. Yeah.
I think we got some rapid fire questions now, and we were making fun of spotters last time with the sprint car and super modified guys, but now, Cody, we have a question that applies to people who do use spotters. Cody, take it away with our first question.
A couple of rapid fire here, about 5 questions here. Best spotter comment. I'll try to get that out.
A slow, Brandon, no, as I was rolling down the backstretch of Western Speedway. I can remember, I was inverted when Dad let that one out, because I was rolling again. The first time was not The first time was not so funny because he didn't know I was okay. That was a rough deal because my radio had fallen out and was laying on the racetrack, but I could hear my dad trying to get a hold of me. And you can the worst thing you can ever hear is when your parents get really upset that their kids might be hurt. And but the second time was pretty funny because I was starting to roll over and I could just hear a Brandon, no.
I think Ryder had some interesting. Had some fun times recreating that, playing with his diecast.
Yes, he's seen the GoPro footage and rolling the cars down the hallway of the house is a favorite pastime of his. Luckily, him and Wayne the trainer, that's gone away because him and Wayne the trainer, best buddies, and they jump cars here the odd time in the shop. So.
Well, maybe he's going to be designing the jump there. I think DJ designed the camper van on top of the Wilson's transportation bus, so there you go. Next stunt coordinator for Crazy Train Stunt Productions.
Nice. Pre-race traditions. I know we talked a little bit about last time, but anything leading up?
I usually just have to pee a whole bunch.
So you're drinking beer and then you pee.
You got to take the edge off.
Days before, of course.
You got to take the edge off.
So no superstitions?
No, I literally have nothing. I'll just, pound a bunch of water and then go get after it.
Nice. A car or a race you want to compete in? You can, again, or the first time?
The dream would be to go to the Derby. But the Snowball Derby, that would be the dream. Maybe one of these years we'll make that big race they just had, the Toyota All-Star Showdown or the Winter Showdown, which is, I run the Summer Showdown at Monroe, but maybe we can run one of those big ones in the Southwest. That'd be pretty cool.
Nice. And all the different tracks you've gone to, what's the best one for the either pre-race or after race party? I know Western's got the beer gardens there that's open sometimes after the races. And...
Western Speedway's got the pretty good party after the races. Some of Penticton's are legendary. But
Yep.
South Sound, those are a good one. Those are people who show up ready to party, drive their pickup trucks into the pits after the races, and just start crushing beers.
They're ready to go.
Ready to go. Like, that's what they came for was to talk to the drivers. And
The racing got in the way of the after party.
yeah, those South Sound Speedways are pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool atmosphere there, and as the wreck cars are getting towed off, they're rolling in there. Everybody's getting ready to go. So, Cody, got another question lined up?
No.
No,
That was it. That was
we've
all
run out of
5.
rapid fire. That was rapid fire.
We got to build on it. Chris Miller had a bunch there, so we need to get a couple more rapid fire questions. But for this one, that's all I got.
I think it's the one guess. The 2 guests right off the bat threw us off. Exactly. There we go. Well, this has been another edition of Short Track Radio. Brandon, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So join us again when we feel like posting.